Taking our 10th spot is George Lucas. Obviously, we all know Elon Musk holds the title of the world's largest net worth to exist, but did you know that writer, director, businessman, and producer George has a current net worth of $10 billion, making him the richest celebrity in the world as of 2020? George is the creative behind the Indiana Jones and Star Wars franchises and has garnered $12 billion in global box office sales alone. Most recently, his 2021 Lucas Museum of Narrative Art opened in September, and the $1 billion LA establishment is set to premiere sometime in 2023. The Academy Museum is marked as the first major film exhibit in a long time to open in Los Angeles, and supposedly has enough space for 2 large cinematic art museums in the city, according to the director Sandra Jackson Dumont. Like today's Where Are They Now if you think the idea of George's LA Museum is cool. Taking our 9th spot is producer, screenwriter, and director Steven Spielberg with a $150 million annual income. At this time, Steven's fortune places him as the planet's second richest celebrity. Nowadays, the Fableman's Gabriel Lavelle, who beat out 2,000 actors for his part, will be playing the role of Sammy Fableman in Steven's upcoming November 2022 film. Though not acting as a young Steven himself, Sammy is a pretty close second to being the famed director. Even more, Gabriel seems to emulate Steven's mannerisms to a T, while still keeping some of his own innovation for his character, evoking one of H-Town's most famous auteurs while also originating a particular character who caters to the film's specific fiction. Sammy drops a distinctive line between Steven and Gabriel, and the actor has noted that the key to embodying Steven successfully lies in his enthusiastic, semi-goofy smile, which may not be recognizable up front, but is hard to miss once acknowledged. Quote, "It helped me transform into this character, it adds his essence." Taking our 8th spot is Kanye West. Before this rapper, producer, entrepreneur, and fashion designer's recent fallout of events, Kanye was worth $4 billion, making him one of the 3 most wealthy self-made black artists in US history. However, currently Kanye's net worth has reportedly dropped to $400 million. The reporter has made very recent claims that he was beat to a pulp following numerous companies bowing out of their partnerships with him after his prejudiced commentary against Jewish people. The Yeezy creative posted a rather brow-raising Instagram message demanding to see contracts while he's still allowed on Mark Zuckerberg's platform. Quote, "Let's see the contracts so we can or will do better business. I've been beaten to a pulp and there's still no accountability." This statement fell in line with Adidas' final decision to terminate their long-running partnership with Kanye. Taking our 7th spot is reality star, entrepreneur, model, and celebrity spokesperson Kim Kardashian. Kim has a reported net worth of $1.4 billion, branding her in the same bunch as the world's most famous and richest existing celebrities. Most recently, Kim called out fans who have been critiquing her fashion game post-Kanye, as she continues to navigate her life being separated from her ex-husband, documented on Hulu's Kardashian series. In the show's November 3rd episode, Kim clapped back at those trolling her for her recent styling changes. Quote, "Let me just say one thing about the flame outfit that everyone wants to talk about. The internet destroyed me and were like, this is what she gets not being with Kanye. The tea is this was one of the outfits he styled and picked out. So if you guys knew that and we were together, you would think it was the coolest outfit in the world. Everyone is so effing fickle." Kim and Kanye were legally separated in March, and about a year after the divorce filing, Kim moved on to date Pete Davidson, much to Kanye's dismay as he never missed an opportunity to publicly shame Pete. Kim and Pete broke up in August after dating for 9 months. However, it seems there is recent room for possible reconciliation. Taking our 6th spot is Tyler Perry. This director, actor, producer, and playwright maintains his net worth of $800 million, making him by far one of the industry's most financially successful directors. Through the longevity of his career, Tyler has produced and directed over 30 films, 20 stage productions, and 8 television shows. Each year he earns an income that ranges between $200 and $250 million due to his vast entertainment empire. Most currently in line with Kanye's aforementioned problematic issues, Tyler has spoken up by noting the common pains Black and Jewish people suffer from. Tyler disclosed his family's own past experiences with prejudiced remarks in an October 31st Instagram post. And while the director didn't name drop the rapper in his informative upload, Tyler instead broke down the history of violence against Jews and the impact of their presence as activists in the civil rights movement, referencing found Jewish members of the NAACP and Jewish allies who were killed in Mississippi while the Black voting rights took place. Quote, "My mother made sure that I knew the commonality of what Black and Jewish people have endured, but in teaching me all about our common pains, she also taught me about the allies that Jewish people have been for Black people. I can fill this post with so many examples, including my own allies that I work with today, who have helped me grow a business that has allowed me to hire more Black people than most businesses in Hollywood. No one makes it alone." Taking our 5th spot is author, television host, and media mogul Oprah Winfrey, with a net worth of $3.5 billion. In latest reports, Oprah cashes in an average of $315 million per year because of her lucrative and diverse media empire. In recent days, Oprah got candid about weight loss gummies and dieting pills in an Instagram video, warning her supporters against advancement brands who use her name in their marketing materials. Oprah revealed that she was never an endorser for either products and said they have been using her name unsolicitedly, saying, "I have nothing to do with weight loss gummies or diet pills. I don't want you all taken advantage of by people misusing my name." Previously, the TV personality has given credit to changes in her lifestyle as the reason for her weight loss, because prior to dropping almost 50 pounds, she was diagnosed diagnosed with pre-diabetes and suffered from blood pressure issues. Taking our 4th spot is Barbados-born singer-songstress, actress, and entrepreneur Rihanna. Rihanna's net worth is $1.7 billion, currently making her the richest female musician in the world, and a large portion of this can be credited from her Fenty Beauty line. This brand alone in her roster generates approximately $100 million in revenue, and Rihanna owns 15% of her partnership deal with luxury goods company LVMH. As of now, the star is set to grace the stage for the 4th volume of her Savage x Fenty lingerie show. In a show-stopping sneak peek for her Prime Video streaming exclusive on November 9th, Rihanna showcased the best visual experience for the newest additions to her collection. In it, the musician took center of a dimly lit stage set that perfectly blended fashion and nature together in a visually pleasing way, honing in on the savage of her collection in front of lush-looking vines and greenery. For the show, Riri won't be the only musical talent in attendance either, as other big names like Maxwell, Don Toliver, Anita, and Burna Boy will also be featured. The star-studded event hosts various special guests, including Cara Delevingne, Laura Stone, Precious Lee, Joan Small, Marseille Martin, Cheryl Lee Ralph, Simu Liu, Taraji P. Henson, Winston Duke, Taylor Page, Bella Poarch, Ricky Thompson, Avani Gregg, and reportedly, Johnny Depp is set to make an appearance, among many more. All the stars' looks for the new SXF drop will be available to purchase on the website and can be streamed on the aforementioned platform. Taking our 3rd spot is Jay-Z. This businessman, rapper, songwriter, and producer houses a net worth of $1.3 billion, having earned it through his music career and extremely successful business ventures. The star's latest is an investment of $16.5 million into a mobile robot-powered pizza restaurant, Stellar, currently awaiting its launch. Jay-Z's exploration into the newest addition to his business portfolio began earlier this year. Hypebeast reported that its founding members consist of a former trio of SpaceX engineers, Benson, James, and Brian, who developed the automatic truck service. The desire is to become the future of pizza deliveries through reduced labors and pricey real estate costs, with a promise to serve instant pizza right at consumers' doorsteps. The business mogul has since entered the Series A financing round alongside Marcy Venture Partners, a venture capital which has additionally invested in top consumer brands like Savage x Fenty and Therabody. Stellar Pizza aims to push out inexpensive robots who constantly serve yummy, high-quality gourmet pies at affordable prices. The project is set to kick off at California's University sometime in the fall. As of late, the truck holds the capacity to make 420 pies, with a single pizza needing less than 5 minutes of preparation. Taking our 2nd spot is car collector, comedian, actor, and TV producer Jerry Seinfeld, who amounts to a $950 million net worth. The vast majority of these earnings are owed to his Seinfeld sitcom, one of television's most profitable shows in history, from royalties. With 7.5% ownership of the show, not only has Jerry earned a fortune from his base salary while it was running, but he also received a lot more in the following years from global sales. In 2021, Jerry shared an update with fans, but specifically his Netflix's show supporters weren't the happiest. The announcement took place when Jerry sat down for a podcast chit-chat with Smartless hosts Jason, Will, and Sean to discuss Cars comedy and his admiration for baseball. During this, he dropped 2 major pieces of news. Not as shocking as one may think, but when Jerry was questioned what his next move for Netflix's Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee was, the star was pretty adamant that he strayed away from the project. There were hints the show was wrapping in March 2020, alluding that the 12th installment wasn't going to take place. The more recent episode at the time was from July 2019 and featured Seth Rogen, Eddie Murphy, Matthew Broderick, Jamie Foxx, and Ricky Gervais. Jerry eventually discussed where he was in the process of directing and starring in Netflix's upcoming film Unfrosted, the Pop-Tart Story, a deep dive into its history and creation. Taking our 1st spot is British author and movie producer J.K. Rowling, with a net worth of $1 billion. Most recently, Harry Potter actor Daniel Radcliffe opened up about his personal feelings regarding him denouncing J.K.'s previous anti-trans comments. J.K. had caught extreme backlash for her views about the transgender community at the time, resulting in her being condemned by the on-screen cast of her creative world. The actor has since called out the author and deems the importance of why he needed to release a public statement touching on her hateful commentary, telling IndieWire, "The reason I felt I needed to say something when I did was because, particularly since finishing Potter, I've met so many queer and trans kids and young people who had a huge amount of identification with Potter on that. So seeing them hurt on that day, I wanted them to know that not everybody in the franchise felt that way, and that was really important." In response to JK's anti-trans remarks, Daniel penned the open letter that was then shared by the website Trevor Project.
And at number 10 is Idris Elba. Idris Elba has talked about his time in the 90s when he was forced to live in his car because his savings had run out. He has talked about these hard times multiple times in different interviews. When he appeared on the Ellen DeGeneres show, Elba told DeGeneres, "I moved to New York as a young budding actor. I had some savings, but then my savings ran out. I couldn't get any work. It was tough times," referring to the time that he was in New York living out of his Chevy Astro van and working as a bouncer at a comedy club. And this was 3 months before he auditioned for a new part on an HBO series called The Wire. He also told GQ back in 2013 about how he used to have to sell the old devil's lettuce while he was bouncing and DJing just to get by. He said, quote, "I was doing my work, I had to. I know that sounds corny, but this is the truth." Number 9. David Oyelowo. The actor David Oyelowo, famous for his roles in films like The Butler and Selma, did not have an easy go of things when he first moved to LA with his family in 2008, right before that year's recession. The actor had just come off of finding some success in London's film scene and was constantly asking himself why he chose to come here. He even recalls how he and his wife got down to just $3 at one point. Luckily, things began to turn around for the actor as he began to pick up more minor roles and eventually hit it big with The Butler. But being so close to completely broke must have been a hard place to be, as I'm sure a lot of us can understand. Number 8. Eminem. Almost everyone knows that Marshall Mathers grew up living in a less than ideal situation. Hell, there's a whole movie about it. During his childhood, his father left him and his mother, and they shuffled between Detroit and Missouri, rarely staying in one house for more than a year or two, and living primarily with family members. It was mainly in Detroit, though, where he grew up. He dropped out of high school at 17, and he worked a bunch of different jobs to try and support his mom, who would throw him out of the house despite the help that he provided. He made his way into the underground Detroit rap scene, getting his name known and respected, and then he impressed Dr. Dre. And now he's worth $230 million. Obviously, it's not that simple, but it was one hell of a come up. Number 7. Nicki Minaj. Onika Tanya Miraj's life was turned upside down at the age of 5 years old when her family moved from Port of Spain in Trinidad to a poor neighborhood in Queens, New York, where she would pray every day that she would be able to make enough money to support her mom. Initially, Nicki intended to pursue acting as her main career and even went to school for it, but because life is just life, she had to put her acting on hold and find a job as a waitress at Red Lobster in New York, a job she was fired from because she had a bad attitude towards customers, which I can totally imagine as being hilarious to see. What a queen. She went on to work as a customer service representative for a phone company, she worked on Wall Street, and had 15 other jobs she had to do while getting herself together, writing rap verses on random sheets of paper. She eventually released 3 mixtapes, with the third leading to her discovery by Young Money Entertainment's Lil Wayne. And now, almost everyone knows her name. Number 6. Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey is a Canadian-born comedic legend. But legends are born through trials and tribulations, and Jim has had a fair share. He had to drop out of high school as a teenager when his father was laid off from work. He took on a job as a janitor and a security guard in order to help his family scrape by. Eventually, his family even lost their home, with Carrey, his parents, and his 4 siblings having no choice but to live in a van and a tent in Charles Daly Park on the Lake Ontario shore in Lincoln, Ontario. Eventually, Jim, his father, and brother got a job at a factory and lived in a house across the street, and this is when Jim began performing comedy in downtown Toronto while continuing to work at the factory. Fast forward to today, and Jim Carrey has been the highest paid actor in Hollywood and has a net worth of $180 million. Number 5. Sylvester Stallone. Sylvester Stallone was born in New York City's Hell's Kitchen, where his mother was a hairdresser. Dead broke and expecting a child, he took bit parts in B-movies, and as many people know, at one point he even sold his dog for cash. The struggle is really real, but just like his most famous character, Rocky, Sly himself is a really inspiring underdog story. He wrote the original Rocky story and fought hard to make sure that he was cast in the leading role. Today, he's one of the most lucrative action stars in Hollywood history, with a net worth of $400 million and a portfolio of films that earned him more than $4.4 billion worldwide. Just a little reminder that we can all pull ourselves up and off of the ground. Number 4. J.K. Rowling. J.K. Rowling is someone I am conflicted to talk about. Many people are extremely opposed to her thanks to her infamous tweets, but many also love the wizarding world she has created with the Harry Potter series. Harry Potter has made Rowling billions from not only the books, but the film franchise, merchandise, and theme parks. But Rowling was once upon a time a single mother relying on welfare, battling depression, and she referred to herself as the biggest failure that she knew. She even famously wrote the manuscript for the Harry Potter series at various cafes throughout Edinburgh during the lowest point of her life. But here she is, now considered one of the most influential women in all of Britain and causing tons of controversy with angry tweets and defensive essays. Number 3. Mila Kunis. As many people know, Mila Kunis started off her life in Soviet Ukraine. Mila's family fled to America as the Soviet Union collapsed when she was just 7 years old. In a 2016 interview with the Daily Mail, she spoke about how she sometimes had to eat ketchup soup as a kid when the food was scarce. Kunis has acted her way out of poverty, starting with a starring role on That 70s Show when she was just 14 years old, something she kept from the showrunners in order to land the role. This is also where she met her husband, Ashton Kutcher. She now has a net worth of $75 million, making her one of the wealthiest celebrity immigrants, and she and Kutcher have vowed that their children will grow up understanding the value of money as they both had to struggle to get where they are. Number 2. Oprah. Oprah is an incredibly inspiring woman. There's no way around that fact. The talk show host was born to an unwed teenage mother raised by her grandmother until she was 6, and later lived with her mother and half-sister in a boarding house in Milwaukee, relying on welfare just to get by. It's a reality far too many people live through on a daily basis. Winfrey was then sent to live with the man she calls her father, Vernon Winfrey, in Nashville, Tennessee, and she landed a job in radio while still in high school. By 19, she was a co-anchor for the local evening news before jumping to the daytime talk show area of television, and after boosting up a third-rated local Chicago talk show to first place, she launched her own production company. Now, she's reportedly worth $2.7 billion and is one of the richest celebrities in the entertainment industry. And in at number 1 is Jay-Z. If you listen to Jay-Z's music, his lyrics almost play like an autobiography of his life. Art comes from experiences, and when you're living in a constant state of struggle, the art that comes from it is elevated to another level. That's a positive way to look at the daily struggle of everyday life. For Sean Carter, he was raised in a Brooklyn public housing project, raised by his mother after his father abandoned the family. Jay-Z admitted in a 2013 Vanity Fair interview that he did sell substances to escape the trap of poverty. Now, while he admitted to feeling guilty later, at the time, he was just trying to survive. He said, quote, "I was thinking about surviving. I was thinking about improving my situation. I was thinking about buying clothes." And again, this is just the reality that so many people face. Now though, he is one of the most influential rappers in the game. He's a record producer, entrepreneur, and founder of talent and entertainment agency Roc Nation, with a net worth of over $1.3 billion. Number 10. Jeff Bezos and Mackenzie Scott. When you are one of the richest people in the world, it means you have more you can afford to give up, and Amazon founder Jeff Bezos has a lot. When he and former wife Mackenzie Scott announced in January 2019 that they were getting divorced after 25 years of marriage and 4 children together, as part of their settlement, Scott would receive 25% of the couple's Amazon stock. 25%? That can't be crazy, I hear some of you sweet innocent souls say. Well, let me tell you, the value of that 25% is about $38 billion. $1 billion is already an extremely high number on its own, but you times that by 38 and you're dealing with a sum of money I can't even imagine. Scott has said that she would be giving at least half of her fortune to charity, but okay, half of that is still a crazy, a mega amount of money. To be fair, Mackenzie Scott has been rich for a long time and would have likely remained rich had she been receiving nothing at all, but still. Number 9. Mel Gibson and Robin Moore. Australian actor Mel Gibson was a huge name in Hollywood for a good little while there before his controversies brought him a little lower on the peg. Mad Max and Robin Moore were married for 31 years before their divorce was finalized in 2011. Mel definitely needed a brave heart for this one, as it was rumored he had to pay somewhere in the ballpark of $425 million in the divorce settlement. Good golly. While the details of the judgment were mostly kept secret, since, it's a divorce, something that people usually like to be private about, it had been estimated at the time by the Los Angeles Business Journal that the Oscar award-winning director and actor was worth $850 million. And since the couple, who by the end had 7 children together, did not have a prenup, according to California law, Moore would have been entitled to half of that sum. So this is mainly just speculation. Michael Jordan and Juanita Vanoy. Juanita Vinoy first filed for divorce from basketball legend Michael Jordan in 2002, possibly after private investigator Ernie Rizzo captured Jordan in, quote, some compromising situations with half a dozen women over 1992 to 2002. After withdrawing her petition for divorce a month after filing in an attempt to reconcile, Vinoy and Jordan announced they were unfortunately actually splitting in 2006. According to Crane's Chicago Business, Vinoy received a grand total of $168 million in the divorce settlement, and then, on top of that, the thing I always forget about is the legal fees. For that little pickle, Jordan also paid an additional $2.1 million. Yikes, Mike. Number 7. Tiger Woods and Ellen Nordegren. If we want to talk about high profile, this is pretty high up on that list. Golden boy, golf legend, and seeming family man Tiger Woods broke news in 2009 with a string of affairs and compromising text messages that became very public. This obviously led to a divorce between Woods and his blindsided wife, Ellen Nordegren, in August of 2010. In an exclusive interview, Ellen said, quote, I never suspected, not a one. For the last 3.5 years when all this was going on, I was home a lot more with pregnancies than the children and my school. Obviously, since the divorce and controversy, Tiger himself has turned things around and made a comeback, but the divorce and controversy cost him more than just the marriage, but specifically in reputation and advertising. At the time, Nordegren and her lawyers were initially aiming for $750 million in the divorce settlement, but eventually it landed at just $100 million in assets that included cash and property. The Golden Boy was worth $500 million when the controversy first broke. Number 6. Heather Mills and Paul McCartney. Heather Mills, a former model and activist, married former Beatle Paul McCartney in 2002, but in 4 probably long years, the marriage dissolved in 2006. But the actual settlement for the divorce? That thing dragged on for 2 more years before a number was eventually reached. Mills initially sought a settlement of $250 million, but what's interesting is the judge ruled the claim exorbitant, which is a little odd considering McCartney is one of the most successful musicians and composers in the history of pop music and has a current net worth of $1.2 billion. In any case, the judge awarded Mills, who shares a daughter with McCartney, the much smaller sum of a paltry $48.6 million instead. Gosh, how will she ever get by on that? Paul also had to provide a $5 million stipend for Heather to buy a home in London and a $1 million per year in spousal support for 5 years. In a press conference after the proceedings in 2008, Mills said, quote, I'm so glad it's over and it was an incredible result, in the end, to secure my and my granddaughter's future, and that all of the charities that I obviously plan on helping. Number 5. Adele and Simon Konecki. I actually remember this one making quite the splash. British singer and songwriter Adele married charity executive Simon Konecki back in 2016 after the two dated for 5 years. Now together they had a son, but that was in 2012. But after about 7 years of being together, they announced their separation in 2019, but didn't finalize it until 2021. In between that, in 2020, we learned that the two had no prenup, and their residence for legal purposes during the marriage was in the state of California, where an ex-spouse is entitled to 50% of all income and assets generated during the marriage. Adele earned around $200 million before taxes during their married years, but despite that, Cosmopolitan reported a Los Angeles court granted Konecki $171 million. Since the details were kept private by the court, we don't know actual details for the amount of her wealth, so perhaps she generated more than the $200 million we thought, as she did splash about $10.65 million for a new house in Beverly Hills after the divorce. Number 4. Madonna and Guy Ritchie. This one wasn't actually too high profile. It was very quick, and there wasn't much drama surrounding it, but considering who was involved, I found it to be at least worth talking about. American mega pop superstar Madonna and awesome British film director Guy Ritchie officially ended things in 2008 after 8 years of marriage. Apparently, according to a bunch of sources, Madonna ended up paying Ritchie, who obviously has his own sizable fortune, a divorce settlement between $76 million to $92 million, which includes the couple's London pub and residence and the Wiltshire estate in England. She currently has a net worth of about $850 million, while Richie has a net worth of about $150 million. Jennifer Lopez and Chris Judd. J-Lo is no stranger to divorce. She's been married 3 times before her now husband and former flame, Ben Affleck. But the one we're talking about today is the marriage and divorce between Jennifer Lopez and former backup dancer Chris Judd. Their marriage lasted less than a year, but that length of time still reportedly cost the actress and singer $14 million after the two divorced in 2003. It marked the second of the famous actresses and singers' 4 marriages, but apparently it was amicable and the two are still friends. I just want to know where all the $14 million went, as his current net worth is just $1 million. Number 2. James Cameron and Linda Hamilton. Titanic, Terminator, and Avatar director and explorer James Cameron has an incredible amount of wealth, as you might have assumed. Much more than his ex-wife Linda Hamilton. After already going through 3 marriages and divorces, Cameron married Terminator star Linda Hamilton in July 1997, 4 years after the actress had given birth to their daughter. But this marriage still only lasted a year and a half, thanks to the fact that there were rumors of an affair between Cameron and actress Susie Amis, who would later become his 5th wife. When Cameron and Linda Hamilton divorced in 1999, according to Forbes, Cameron made about $100 million for the film Titanic, and Hamilton received half of those earnings in the divorce settlement, getting $50 million total. She is now sitting at a $7 million net worth, and James Cameron just adds a 0 to that number at a whopping $700 million. And in at number 1 is Arnold Schwarzenegger and Maria Shriver. Consider that the divorce. Australian-American bodybuilder, model, actor, businessman, and politician, Arnold Schwarzenegger was at a few times the highest paid person in entertainment. So, as you can imagine, a divorce from him, especially in California with no prenup, would be quite a payout. The divorce settlement between Arnie and his wife from 1985 to 2017, Maria Shriver, a TV news personality and the niece of President Kennedy, was estimated to be in the range of between $250 million and $375 million. The two were married for 25 years before Shriver filed for divorce in 2011. After news broke that Arnold had fathered a son 14 years earlier with the family housekeeper. On top of that huge amount, and that huge controversy, their divorce also took a whole 6 years to settle. Arnold kept their longtime family home in Brentwood, while Maria used his funds to acquire a new home nearby. Despite everything, they still maintain joint ownership of family vacation properties in Sun Valley, Idaho, and Hyannisport, Massachusetts.